nice day to start again. It's a nice day to start again.
What's going on, people? Welcome to episode 1 of The Art of Medicine, aka The Doctor Who Cares with Dr. Michael Uphughes. How you doing today, man?
Doing great.
Tell us a little bit about you.
Always great to be hanging in the confines of Sunshine Cava here in Inverness, Florida. So, originally from Chicago, grew up there, went to Catholic high school, did my undergrad and graduate work at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign with my undergrad in biology, master's degree in anatomy, and then went to Midwestern University, which was Chicago College of Osteopathic Medicine in Chicago, and then completed my 3-year residency in family medicine at the University of Illinois at Chicago. And then went on to several places, Barrow, Alaska, Juneau, Alaska, and about 20 years on the Fort Peck Indian Reservation in northeastern Montana. Done quite a bit of medical missionary work in several places, Guatemala, Haiti, and even down in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina 2006, so have a wide range of experiences. And during this, started my private practice back in 2006, right out of my own house. So the patients would be waiting for me after I got done rounding at the hospital. They'd be waiting in my living room, having coffee and whatnot, and then they would come back and see me. I converted a bedroom in one of the bedrooms in my house into an exam room, and away we went. And then built it one patient at a time.
Man, that's awesome. How'd you get the name, like The Art of Medicine? Like, how did you?
So the Art of Medicine is something that, you'll hear medicine referred to as that a long time ago, but many people see medicine as pure science. And I think on a new webpage, this is kind of explained a little bit, but medicine has always been an art, and especially to me, I've taken it as an art. The reason for this is you have to have a scientific basis for what you're doing. There's no question about that. But the art of medicine really involves much more. And medicine, in my mind, is relational, meaning this is a serious and sacred interpersonal relationship, which entails, obviously, first of all, patient rapport with another person, a connection with another human being, respect for the other human being, listening to what the other human being has to say, what their concerns, complaints are, and taking into account their intellectual, mental, emotional, intuitional, and physical life, of course, and also their spiritual life. So taking all this into account, wrapping it up in one big relationship, it really becomes an art, because you're not just treating a physical symptom, you're treating the entire individual in every aspect of their life. So that's where the art comes in, because so many decisions that we make in medicine are not just based on a protocol, some set protocol or a cookbook type approach to it. It is much more intuitive feel and knowing the patient, knowing the patient's family, and knowing their belief system in order to come up with an appropriate therapeutic plan for them.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. We're seeing a huge growing fad of weight loss drugs recently. And have you been prescribing a lot of that?
So, yeah, from day one. So first, we can talk about generational drugs, and right now we're on the 3rd generation of quote weight loss drugs. So I'll go over a couple of the ones from the past you guys may have heard of. So everybody knew about some of the stimulants back in the day. So first generation drugs would be things like phentermine, orlistat, Qsymia. Those would be a couple of them. And then we got into, the rage came with semaglutide and tirzepatide. That's 2nd generation. So semaglutide was a pure GLP-1 agonist, and then tirzepatide is a GLP-1 and a GIP agonist. And now we're on 3rd generation drugs, so we're on to retatrutide, which is a GLP-1 agonist, a GIP agonist, and also a glucagon agonist, which gives us more of a thermogenic effect. It actually will raise the body temperature a little, which causes a much more dramatic reduction in visceral fat around the midsection. So a lot of people have been seeing great benefits. The other thing that we see happens with these medications is it changes their entire metabolic state. So they seem to, obviously, there's much more sensitivity to insulin. There's a dramatic weight loss. But the other thing we found is working centrally in the central nervous system, people that have cravings. So it started as my cravings for sweets and foods has seemed to plummet some, but then people started to notice that we're smokers and so forth. Well, all of a sudden, I don't feel like I really want a cigarette anymore. People that drank, I don't feel any craving for alcohol. And then, of course, people that were addicted to other substances. I just don't have these cravings for other things. So it's been an interesting journey with these drugs in that it's not only treating weight loss, it's shifting their metabolism and also shifting their mindset and cravings for things that aren't necessarily healthy for us. So it's been an amazing thing.
Man, that's awesome. That's awesome. We're seeing a lot of people. We're seeing effects on these drugs. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is, in fact, dieting and working out. You know, and it is awesome that we're seeing this new health fad come in. But have you seen anything concerning about it?
No. So so Ronnie Shears brings up a great point. He's been a great friend of mine. We see each other at the gym. We see each other out and about in town here. And he's a very well-read man. He's very acutely aware of, yes, we can always take a drug for something. And what he's getting at here is, it's great to have these drugs, but at the end of the day, what this really entails is a shift in your daily habits. Okay? It's lifestyle modification, and this is exactly what he's referring to here. So when it comes down to specifics, what do you actually tell people to eat, okay, from a functional medicine standpoint, and how much exercise do you get? What's kind of that sweet spot? If people really want to get on a program, they come to me and say, well, what does carving out a program look like for me? So let's get down to diet first. So there are 4 different diets that we've identified in functional medicine that optimize people's cardiovascular risk, cardiovascular benefits, so forth. And then just overall wellness. And one of them being the Mediterranean diet. Most people have heard of that. There was a Dr. Willett who put the initial tome out, I believe, years ago. There's the Okinawan diet, which you see people follow over in Japan. These are people a lot of these people live to be over 100 years old, very healthy diet. Of course, the vegan diet. And then the DASH diet, which I'm not a big fan of, but it's still identified as one of the 4 functional medicine diets, or a fusion thereof. With intermittent fasting involved, I think gives you much more punch when you're on one or a combination of these diets.
I've never heard of the DASH diet. Can you tell me about it a little bit?
Yeah. So DASH diet was originally carved out for hypertension. So you will have whole grains in this. They do allow a little bit of like desserts and so forth, sugar. That's where it differs from the other ones. Why I'm not really a fan of it at all. Lean meats, of course, fruits and heavily on fruits and vegetables, and then whole grains. So it's similar to some of the other diets. I think there's a little bit more, quote, cheating when you're talking DASH diet, because they allow a little bit of margin for things like sweets, and it's not an emphasis on sweets, but there's a little bit of margin. Some of these other diets are much less forgiving when it comes to eating sweets and so forth. So that's the main difference with DASH.
I feel like we're seeing a huge shift in just people getting healthy in general. Recently, I think they banned Red 40 and some other food dyes, which I like in the. What do you feel like? Do you see the change in what people are eating? Yeah,
it's a great question. So Ronnie's been noticing this. We talked about this earlier, and he noticed this, and he said, "Where do you think this began?" We saw a huge shift, to be honest with you, during COVID, and here's why it happened during COVID. I believe, first of all, people developed a lot of healthy mistrust in our medical system, which they should have during COVID, because we got a up close and personal view of what's wrong with our medical system, which is just about everything. And it became much more draconian during that time. But here's what happened. People started to educate themselves because they were home anyway, had access to internet and whatnot. And then they wanted to remain healthy. They thought, well, how can I prevent myself from becoming sick? How can I prevent COVID? If I get COVID, what supplements could I take? And it's things like people found out, well, vitamin D isn't just kind of a good idea, it's essential in health. And then people started to read for themselves, well, why is it? Well, what came out of COVID, I'll give you, this is just a for instance for vitamin D. If you look on a lab test, a normal amount of vitamin D is between 30 to 100. But what actually came out of studies that were done during COVID was if you want an immune function that's going to be actually boosted, a level of 55 to 100, and with the optimal being around 80, is actually where you want to be. Most people that I test, myself included back in the day, had a vitamin D level somewhere in the 20s. And these are people that even live in warm climates. Part of the problem is you can be out in the sun all day. If you go inside and take a shower, which most people do, and you use soap and water, you've just washed away the ability for that to convert to the active form and then be absorbed into the body. So if you don't allow that vitamin D to remain on the skin and become absorbed and you wash it away, you've now wiped away the benefit, which a lot of people don't know. So small things like that. So first of all, they started to look at how can I remain healthy, okay? And so supplements is just one thing, but they started looking, how do I remain healthy from a dietary standpoint? So people started taking a deep dive, and they would find things like the Mediterranean diet, DASH diet, Okinawan diet, vegan diet, and they became more conscious of their health because, one, their health started to become, I think, a little bit more important to them. They didn't take it as much as for granted as they did before. They wanted to remain healthy. More importantly, they wanted to remain out of our medical system because they saw, if they went in for a problem such as COVID, the hospital protocols were clearly killing people. When they had drugs such as remdesivir, which I think is still part of the protocol, the only study done on remdesivir was on Ebola patients initially, and 52% of those patients had developed renal failure, and then, of course, many of them died. So, 50% had 52% in the study had their kidneys shut down. I wouldn't use that as a protocol for anything. So I'm thinking, if that's the best we've got for a protocol, we've got a major problem. And I think people saw through what they were doing with these protocols, and that's why they became aware of health and wellness. And then, of course, the exercise piece. If you want to look at what would be recommendable, first of all, if you're starting from square one, okay, and you're still ambulatory, meaning you can walk, okay. The very simple thing is get into a daily habit of walking. So I just tell people 15, 20 minutes, just get out. And if you're doing absolutely nothing right now, if nothing else, 15 minutes, get out and walk. But if you're talking about honest to goodness physical training, what does it actually look like? Once you're kind of up and running, you're starting to get into some kind of shape, what is an optimal functional medicine approach? Well, here it is. 3 days of resistance training. 45 minutes to an hour is usually sufficient. So this would be weightlifting, body weight exercises, squats, push-ups, pull-ups, things like that. Band work, so where you have bands that you can actually pull on and so forth and perform exercises. TRX machines, kettlebells, yoga. There's many different forms of resistance training. But anyway, 3 days a week, 45 minutes to an hour. The next is some cardiovascular work, some cardio, which a lot of people don't want to talk about. You and I both love cardio. We don't mind it at all. But what we recommend is Zone 2 training, and let's go over that real quick. Zone 2 training is, when we talk zones have to do with your maximum heart rate. So as we age, that starts to come down. 220 minus your age is about your maximum heart rate for any particular age. So you multiply that number, 220, take your age, subtract it from there, from 220, and then multiply that times 0.6 or 0.65, and that gives you 60 to 70% of your maximum heart rate. And what you do is either, whether you're out jogging and you've got a Fitbit on, any way you can track this, or if you're on a treadmill or a Stairmaster, an elliptical, doesn't matter. They usually have the handles on there where you can get a heart rate, and you just get you get to 60 to 70% of that maximum, and you hold it there again, 45 minutes to an hour, 4 days a week. And the last piece is One day, if you want to, you could even substitute it for one of the days of Zone 2 training, is Zone 4 training. That's HIIT training, high-intensity interval training. And you perform that. And that's usually only, 5 to 60 minutes would be pushing it way, way high. Most people don't need more than 5-10 minutes of that, and they'll do it in intervals anyway. But that's 80 to 90% of your max heart rate. And you're, of course, as you know, you're not carrying on a conversation at that point. I think we both have done this on a Stairmaster. Yeah. You're not there having a conversation at 90% of your heart rate. So.
No, sir. No, sir.
So that kind of carves out. So that gives you a good idea. So that carves out specific diets, specific exercise, and then how people have kind of come full circle and started to demand a more wellness model, not a sickness model, which is what our current medical model is.
For me personally, COVID was honestly a beautiful time. I started listening to podcasts, Joe Rogan podcast, my favorite. Talking about this beautiful thing called the carnivore diet. And I was just eating steak and salads. And I went from 280 pounds down to 195 pounds. And no gyms were open at the time, so all I had at my house was 20-pound dumbbells and about 150 pounds on a bench press. And I'd run around my neighborhood. And that was it, just the carnivore diet, running around the neighborhood, doing some light training at my house. And
this is amazing. So I want people to know specifics. We're going to have Ronnie talk about some specifics because this is super important. So he identified right there, you don't need a gym, and he's a big man. So he's a football player. He's also a professional wrestler. So you say, well, what can a guy like that do with 20-pound dumbbells? So I'm going to have him actually just give some tips because it brings something up. You're not going to have, most of us are not going to have a full complement of dumbbells at home. But say you only have money for 15, 20, 25-pound dumbbells, what would you recommend? What did you do?
I just did hundreds of reps of everything, every day, just 20-pound dumbbells.
Give him some of the exercises you actually would do.
Well, I had a little workbench at my house, so I'd lay down on it, and I'd do about 200 reps. Another thing, too, is I'd put 45 pounds on my the standard 15-pound bench press bar,
yep.
And I'd do my body weight. I was however much I weighed at the time. Well, I got down to 195, so I'd be doing 195 reps in one set. And I'd do multiple sets with 45 pounds of 195 reps. It's really just figuring out your body weight for me personally, and all these little exercises like I was doing, especially with the curls and the tricep extensions. It's doing a light weight and just doing how much I weighed at that time. So I started off doing 270 reps, ended up working down to 195 reps. It was a fun time. It was, and I was surprised with the results I was getting. I was losing weight fast, and I do thank the carnivore diet for a lot of that, but I was not able to maintain it for that long because recently, just last year, I shot up to 295 pounds. And right now I'm down to 245 pounds, but I've just been on a calorie deficit recently, 1,800 calories a day, trying to get around 200 grams of protein. And I feel like there has been times, especially recently, where I fell off my diet, but due to the fact that what I'm doing now was a lot more sustainable than the carnivore diet, when I do fall off for a couple days, it's so much easier just to get back on the right track. I love the carnivore diet. It's great for losing weight fast, but I think that's what it's best for, and it's definitely not as sustainable as what I'm doing now.
Absolutely. So some of the other workouts, this is one of my favorites, and some of my people who follow me, especially my patients, I put fitness videos out a lot on Facebook for my patients, really, because I always felt that as a physician, you should be walking the walk. Like if you're going to tell or request that patients do something, my philosophy is I never ask patients to do anything I wouldn't do or haven't done. That's the way I put it. And I spent some time out in Encinitas, California with an organization called SEAL Fit, so you're trained by the Navy SEALs. So I've gone out there and done some camps with them and then followed some of their program. You can follow their program even if you're not there. So we know what the human body is capable of. The problem with a program like that, years ago I was training 4 times a day and I was running Spartan races up in the mountains. The problem is a lot of that was plyometric type movements and so forth. and I basically wore out. I've got tiny joints. I'm an ectomorphic guy, my body type, and I wore out my hip so badly. I wound up in 2019 with a right hip replacement, but just jumped right back in the fray. But I mean, it got to the point I was hobbling for 3 years. It didn't break me for 3 years, but eventually it will get you. But I think Ronnie points out something very important here. You don't need a lot of fancy equipment. It comes down to doing the reps you need to do. So one of the workouts I was going to tell people about is sometimes I'll be out walking on the trails here in Inverness, Florida, and then I'll stop, we'll set the camera up, and there have been times my favorite workout is to do 1,000 squats and 1,000 push-ups. And the way I break that down is that I do 25 of each. So I'll get down, do 25 push-ups, stand up, 25 squats, get down, 25 push-ups, until you're done. It takes several hours, but once you're at that level, anybody can do it. I know it sounds like a lot to people, but you get into a flow like that, in a mindset like that, and you think about, when you're in the middle of that workout. So you get to 500, and my attitude at that point is, how do I know I can do 500 more? I just did 500. So you just dig deep down, and even if you have to drop the number of weights, maybe you have to go down to 10 at a time. And people are like, God, but that takes so long. I know it does take so long, but that's what discipline is all about, and it's well worth it. So that's one of my favorites. So a couple of miles on the trails with interspersed 1,000 push-ups, 1,000 sit-ups. Another fantastic workout people can do. So it was Michael Murphy, who was a Navy SEAL who was killed over in Afghanistan, came up with the Murph workout. It was his favorite workout. So people can either walk, jog, or run 1 mile. You then do 300 squats, no weight, 200 push-ups, and then 100 pull-ups. And then you run, jog, or walk another mile. It's a great way to get it done. If you can get it done in under 40 minutes, 35, 40 minutes, you're in very good shape. Give it a try sometime and see. The one that starts eating up your time are pull-ups, typically.
Yeah.
So you can get that mile done, you get the 300 squats done and 200 push-ups, but 100 pull-ups, if you're not doing them all the time, you're doing basically, at the end of that workout, you're doing one at a time. And taking your rest, another one, and yeah. So, but anybody can do it. You get it done eventually. But that is a great little workout to do. The fastest guys I see do, I think I've done it in 45 or 50 minutes when I was doing that kind of training. Most of the time, you're not going to get that done in under an hour, I can tell you that. But it's a great little workout to do. And again, you don't need, actually, without even if you don't have a treadmill, you don't need any equipment, just a bar or a branch to do pull-ups is all you need.
Yeah, I love that, though. At the end of the day, there's a billion different ways you could try to lose weight, but it's really just as simple as being disciplined, eating in a caloric deficit, and working out. No matter what, that's what it's going to come down to. And it's just that simple.
Yeah, and I'm glad you bring it up. So one of the questions I get is, so I start on the, tirzepatide or retatrutide, and I also, folks, I added metformin. So metformin was traditionally given for diabetes, but what we found was the people that we were giving metformin to for diabetes would just naturally start losing weight. So then it became kind of a weight loss / anti-aging drug. There's also some other benefits here, but what we're getting at, both Ronnie and I, is there's no magic bullet. And the other thing is, those companies wanted people to stay on those forever. See, that was the intent of the companies. But I go to compounding pharmacies. I have these done through compounders, and so I don't buy the brand names of these particular drugs. But what I do is we set a goal, whatever the patient's goal is. We get them there. We make sure that as we're getting them there, they're implementing these lifestyle changes of diet, exercise, and of course, I'm a big believer in box breathing, meditation, mindfulness, movement. If you can do yoga or Pilates, I think there's just amazing benefit there as well. And then, of course, there's spiritual life. You're dialing all this in at the same time. So the lifestyle changes are occurring as we start them on the medication. Once they hit that, we take them off the medications. And yes, I'll have them keep a vial of the retatrutide or tirzepatide in their fridge, keep the metformin on hand. Some will stay on metformin for a little while longer. But once you reach it, our intent is to get off those medications. It's just basically a boost at the beginning of it. But once they get to the goal, our goal is to just then live a healthy life and don't have to depend on any medications.
they're tools. You know,
And that's it.
It's
Correct.
beautiful to have tools. You know what I'm saying? But in the same way that sometimes you aren't going to have the weights you want. Me and Dr. Mike, we both lift weights at Planet Fitness. The dumbbells only go up to 75 pounds. You know, and then like
it's simply not enough.
It's simply
so he's talking what he's getting at here. Yeah, it's true. Even at a place like Planet Fitness, 75-pound dumbbells. Once you've been training as long as we have, Ronnie's been at it a long time. I've been at it 42 years, longer than 42. I mean, the first year I joined a gym was 1984, so it's literally been 42 years of training. And most of the gyms I went to, dumbbells went up to 200 pounds. So, for instance, if you're doing heavy presses, if you're doing heavy bent over rows, 75 pounds is just not a lot. I mean, it's not bragging. It's any man knows this. Bent over rows with 75 pounds, you can rep all day long with that. So,
tools are tools. Sometimes you're not going to have all the tools. It's that simple. So even if you don't have access to one of these weight loss drugs, it shouldn't stop you. But tools are extremely helpful at the same time. That's it. It's simple as that.
Absolutely. So, I think the takeaway from this particular podcast is, you know, what are some of the weight loss drugs we're using right now, and there are going to be the fourth generation coming. So these, I was talking to Ronnie about this earlier. Fourth generation drugs are going to be things like activin and myostatin inhibitors. So what are those? So activin and myostatin inhibitors are going to target enzymes that are inside of our muscle cells that actually prevent us from putting on lean muscle that we've had from an evolutionary standpoint from eons ago. And the reason was fat in our bodies is a much more stable way, for one, and efficient way to store energy. It's more efficient than storing it in muscle. Your body it's going to burn glycogen first, muscle second, and fat third. So our bodies would actually store fat in lieu of putting it on as muscle through these enzymes, activin and myostatin. You know, you can hear myo. Myo means muscle. Statin is basically stop or static. It stops you from putting on muscle. Well, imagine if you could take retatrutide to drop fat mass, and at the same time give yourself a medication that stops you from not putting on muscle. It means you will put on muscle naturally while you're losing fat, which means you'll be able to dial in or have your body look whatever way you want it to. Now, if you add in resistance training, you're going to have a much bigger boost in lean mass, muscle mass, so people can, in the future, probably around 2030, certainly by 2035, dial in your body to look pretty much however you want to look. Bodybuilders physique included. I mean, however you want to look, you'll be able to do it.
It's beautiful.
It's amazing.
It's awesome.
It's coming.
It's everybody's going to end up being fuck plastic surgery. We don't need it at this point.
You're not going to need it.
That's it, man. It is cool that we're seeing so many people care about getting in shape, though. You know, and like, I mean, I don't like seeing all the people at the gym whenever I go to work out, but at the same time, it is a good thing that as a society, we're starting to care more about how we look, how we feel, how we act.
And I think you're right. I think some of the numbers are up. I think one other thing that's happened since this last presidential race is, you know, we've got RFK Jr. now at Health and Human Services. So this has been just amazing for us because, you know, I think he's really putting an emphasis now on wellness, not sickness, which is the first time probably in history. You know, we turned the Department of Agriculture food pyramid upside down, which we all knew we needed to do a long time ago. In functional medicine, we had been talking about this for a long time. And that's exactly what we had to do, and that's exactly what we've done at this point. So that's a fantastic start.
Yeah, right. It's beautiful.
And he's chipping away at all these other things. He also loves alternative therapies. He takes peptides himself. I know. I know that for a fact. I know some of his physicians. So thank goodness we have him. Hopefully we can have him or someone like him for the next 20 years, because really to make the necessary changes, because we know, you know, in our political system, things don't happen fast. It takes time. So, you know, he's fighting big food, big pharma, the media. He's fighting everybody to try to implement very healthy changes for our public. But I think people are starting to see that and respond to it in kind.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's cool. It's a great day. It's a good day to start again.
It's a nice day to start again, just like White Wedding. Absolutely.
Yeah, yes, sir. Well, shit, I appreciate talking to you, man. I'll fucking talk to y'all again soon.
Yeah, Ronnie says, we're going to be doing these pretty often. You'll be able to find this on YouTube, Spotify, and certainly we'll get it on my website as well, drmichaelupshughes.com. There's a YouTube channel associated with that. We'll make sure we get it out there in many forms, folks, because we're going to be bringing to the table some very informative stuff. I know Ronnie's got a lot of exciting ideas. One is going to be just a history of medicine, which I think people need to hear about. That's going to be a very interesting episode.
Yes, sir.
We'll do some more on specific, and maybe we'll do a more visual where we have to video going and we'll show some actual exercises for you guys. Both of us training and so forth would be fun. But there's a lot of topics coming. And I'm excited to do it here with Ronnie Shears. Great guy, very passionate about what he does here, well-read. He takes a deep dive into his topics. We don't do anything in a superficial way. I think you guys are going to enjoy this podcast.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. Y'all
Thanks.
have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for being here today.
Yes, sir.